Today's video, we're answering the top 4 financial questions that dental students and recently graduated dentists ask. When I graduated from dental school, there was no podcasts and audiobooks and ebooks and all these different places that you could go for coaching and learning from mentors, etc., about how to invest in things like real estate, stocks, whatever it is. Now, fast forward here in 2024, there's an abundance of information out there. There's podcasts, there's ebooks, there's mentorships, there's mastermind groups, there's retreats, there's summits. The list goes on and on and on. We're now at a point of not having enough information, but we're having too much information. You add in artificial intelligence and ChatGPT to the mix, and it gets mind-boggling. So where do you turn for reliable answers that are gonna actually work? Well, here on this channel, this is Walk of Wealth. I'm Dr. Jonny Walker, aka Jonathan Witanachi, for those of you who haven't met me. I'm talking about real advice for the dentist because I'm a dentist myself. I've been an endodontist for 15 years and I've created a multi-million-dollar real estate investing portfolio actively, and I've also created a private investment firm that has gone on to invest in over $350 million of real estate completely passively. On top of that, we've helped over 100 dentists start their journey to financial freedom, and we've helped close to 100 dentists start investing in real estate. So I do know a thing or two when it comes to answering these questions. And I'm very, very encouraged by the fact that I have so many dental students that are scheduling calls with me. Usually the people that schedule calls with me are other doctors or dentists or maybe even business. So I have a lot of business owners, even accountants, and to a lesser extent, lawyers, accountants, those type of professionals. By and large, majority of our group are dentists. And now, these savvy dental students, when I was in dental school, I wasn't thinking about, hey, what am I gonna invest in? What am I doing? I was thinking about learning what a class 2 margin, what a feather edge bevel is, right? I'm trying to remember about intermaxillary fixation, all these different things I'm learning about dentistry. The last thing I'm thinking about is real estate investing. I mean, I was to a certain extent because I started reading my first real estate book there. But now I'm seeing so many dental students and young dentists that are so financially astute because they're listening to podcasts. They're thinking about what they're going to do with their money when they invest and being smart with it. Because the truth is, we're not taught this stuff in dental school. So the fact that I have these young students that are scheduling calls with me, which is a private equity firm that helps dentists achieve financial freedom through passive investment, they're not at a point that they even have money yet, and they're already thinking about it. This gives me some great hope for the next generation. Hope that we didn't have because we were in a place of not having enough education. So anyway, let's get into the top 4 questions. The first question, number 1 question, and this is not in any order, should I specialize? Or should I just go right to work as soon as I graduate? Now, I'm gonna talk about this from my perspective. I'm an endodontist, as I mentioned, right? I came to the realization while I was in dental school that, hey, specialists can earn 2 to 5 times what an average general dentist will make and potentially working less time. When I learned that, I'm like, that's what I want. I want in. But is that the right decision? So let's take a look at it from both perspectives. Now, as a general dentist, you on average do make less than a specialist. These are facts. They're backed by data. But I would also say in my experience in the dental industry, which is now 15 years, and by and large, the most successful financially, right? The most wealthiest dentists are usually general dentists, right? They're a small outlier of the general dentists. They only make up a small segment of them, but they are, by the guys that achieve a billionaires or 100 millionaire status, by and large, those dentists are usually general dentists. But that makes up a very small percentage outlier. The average general dentist makes about $150,000 to $180,000 a year, depending on where you live. Now, the vast majority of specialists starting is going to average more than that, right? 30 to 50 to 75% more than that immediately. So you do have delayed gratification. You have to go to school longer. You have to train while your other peers start working, and you might be already 30 years old or close to 30 when you graduate from dental school, or in your late 20s, and you're like, hey, look, I've been in school my whole life. I can't go back to school again. For me, I realized the income level was much greater, and because of that, I decided to specialize. Now, it ended up being a great decision that I don't regret at all, because what endodontics has allowed me is to achieve such a huge income. Number 1, I made a great improvement to my lifestyle. I'm from a very poor immigrant family, and we didn't have access to a lot of, things and services that we didn't even know existed that all of a sudden became available to me. Right? So the lifestyle greatly improved. The second and probably more important thing is the ability to save large chunks of money that you can use as a stepping stone to propel your future bank, your future self. And that in itself is a reason to specialize for me, because I'm an investment guy. I think dentistry is a great way to get rich, but most dentists struggle mightily at becoming wealthy. By learning to invest correctly, we can make that transition from rich to wealthy. And you do that by investment. So by being a specialist, you have a higher predictability of earning a higher income, which allows you to invest at a greater rate earlier on in your life, which allows the effects of time and compounding to perpetuate wealth that's independent of you working. Now, let's look at it step back from the financial perspective. What are you as an individual, right? Are you a person that wants to be a dentist and potentially own a business and have employees and staff and maybe open multiple businesses? You know, those type of people, you may not need to specialize. If you know that you want to be a general dentist, you know that this is what you love to do, then there's no reason to specialize. There's another group of our cohorts that love to do deep learning, right? That are just really interested about subject and wants to go deep into it. That's how I learn. When I learn about something, I get almost obsessed and I don't go wide, right? I don't learn about a little bit about a whole bunch of things. I learn about one or two really things and I go deep in and really learn all the nuances, the tricks and everything to understand a topic or subject matter very specifically. And I did that with endodontic, and that's my personality, right? So specializing in anything is my personality in a way. So even when it came to real estate investing is a broad term. I completely focused on passive real estate investment, cash flowing passive investments, and then looking at low risk passive cash flowing investments. And I specialized only in asset classes that deliver those type of returns. So specialization was my own thing. All right, now that's specialty. What's the second question? Should I buy a dental office or be an associate? This is probably one of the most common questions, and it's a very important question that you should not take lightly. This is the truth here. All dentists should not own a dental office. Let me make this statement even more clear. Most dentists should not own a dental office. Here's why. There are dentists, and I said this at the beginning, there are dentists that are excellent business people. They have great people around them, maybe parents, maybe mentors. Maybe they're just naturally inclined for business, and they're willing to pour their heart and soul into it to make it successful. Most likely, those dentists will be successful. And again, only a small percentage of people have created the systems to build a very fulfilling business and career that they can also balance their time, where they're not married to a cash flowing machine that they have to be there and work it. Again, very small amount of people. You have to decide if you want to be a business owner. Do you want to handle staff? Do you want to handle management? Do you want to handle marketing, initiatives to make the business grow, creative systems and procedures, right? These are all parts of building a successful business. If you don't have the skill set, you can always go and acquire it. But always ask yourself, do you want that? Is this something that you want in your core, or is this something that you feel like, oh my God, I've been working for years, I don't have anything in my name and I need to go get a dental office? That is terrible reasoning to get into a dental office, right? To own a practice. If you can earn a great income as an associate, if you're a general dentist in these DSOs, there's dentists making $200,000, $250,000 a year and not having the headache of doing any day-to-day activity, right? They go in, they do the work, earn a big income and go home. They don't have to stay on and do a second job of running and operating a business, right? And if you learn to put away, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. You ever heard that? And that's a great saying, because if you earn, even if you earn $1 million, but you're spending, not your lifestyle is spending $900,000 a year, you're not any better off, right, than anybody else that's stuck in the rat race. You just become in a much larger wheel with more luxuries, but you're still stuck in the rat race. That was an aside, by the way. Now, the point is, are you built for running an office? If not, be an associate. There's nothing wrong with being an associate. At the first 10 years of my career, I was an associate. I made a ton of money, I worked, and I went home. And the other thing is, I made sure that I was saving a percentage of my every dollar that I earned to put into a savings account so that I could invest in something that's giving me income, so I don't have to worry about my dentistry income, right? And the more income I have coming from other areas that are independent of me going and working, the better off I am. So for me, I focused on making as much money as I could as an associate and dumping it into stuff that was building me cash flow. This is what's creating the monster, right? Creating this monster that's feeding cash flow and growing your wealth without you having to do with it. I realized that after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which everyone should read, and I went all in on that philosophy and I dumped everything into real estate investing. And I haven't looked back since I did that, with the right strategy. Question number 3, should I buy my primary residence first before I start to invest? This is something I hear a lot. Here's my advice to you. Might be a little controversial, and it might go against the grain of many of our conventional peers. Don't buy your house. Don't ever. People think, hey, look, before I invest in anything, I need to make sure that I have something and I own where I live. Right? Very similar to the mindset of I need to own a practice. I need to own a dental office. For me, and I was renting for the first 8 years after dental school. And I was, instead of buying the place I lived in Manhattan. It was very expensive. I'd rather rent a beautiful luxury building than buy something and live in a half quality place. Didn't make any sense. I would rather get much greater returns on my investments out there that's bringing me cash flow and income rather than spending all of big chunks of money to live in an apartment in Manhattan or a condo in Manhattan that I had to make a huge mortgage payment and it wasn't making me any money. In that situation, your primary residence becomes a liability. So Grant Cardone says this. A lot of very, very smart financial people will tell you this. Don't buy where you live, buy where you invest. Don't buy where you live. In other words, don't buy where you live, buy where you invest. Rent where you live. Number 4 is, should I pay off my student loan aggressively? I made a whole video about this. This is a lot of unpacking to do, but I'm just going to give you the answer. If you want the reasons and the calculations behind it, watch the video on that. Should I pay off my student loans? But the answer is no, don't pay them off aggressively. Pay them off over as long a period of the time as you can, especially if it's a low interest loan. My student loans are stuck in the low 3s. Why am I going to rush to pay that off? Just think about it like this. If I have a $100,000 loan and I have a $100,000 student loan and I have $100,000 in my bank, I could go and pay off that loan and save 3% interest. Right? So now I pay off the $100,000, I'm saving $3,000 a year in interest payments. That's pretty good, right? That means I've made $3,000 in other words. What if I could invest that $100,000 in a passive real estate investment that gives me 16% average return? On top of that, 16% average return, you're getting 5% of that, right? About a third of it in cash flows. This is monthly distributions. So in year 1, if you invested $100,000, you should make about $5,000 of cash flow. $5,000 of cash flow minus the $3,000 of interest payments that you would have for keeping that loan. And now you've created a $2,000 profit for yourself, a yield, right? But the trick is, it's actually earning on average about 16% a year, because after, say, 5 years, the investment sells and you get a big healthy return. You get a big percentage of the profits as a return. So in that case, if you're making 16% on average over the lifetime of the investment, and your cost of capital, because you borrowed, $100,000 as a student loan and is 3%, and you're making 15, the math is easy. You're making an extra 12% just by investing your money instead of paying off your student loan. So it's the opportunity cost of the capital. Can you get higher returns with that money that you would just throw into the student loan versus the debt that you're paying on it? If you can create positive leverage means that your rate of return is greater than the cost of capital, then that's called a yield, and you should get as much of that as you possible. You know who else creates yields off of money? Wall Street. And you see all the big, shiny, beautiful buildings that the House of Finance has built in downtown Manhattan? Go and see what they've done there, and you'll know how they did it. This is how they do it. They play games with money. And now we can do that too, if we learn the tricks of the trade. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If you haven't subscribed already, smash the subscribe button. If you are a potentially interested investor, we have absolutely the best deals, the most vetted, most thorough due diligence in the entire industry for passive investments is done by our firm. If you want to learn more about investing alongside us in our upcoming projects, make sure you schedule a call with me in the link below on my website. I look forward to hearing from you. And to keep the wealth building tips growing, your bank accounts growing, and the cash flows flowing, click on the next video. See you next time, guys. Boom.